Okay, because of follow-up question.
Okay. This has to do with the VDOE's model policies for the treatment of transgender students. There is a specific part in there that permits portions of educational records to be withheld from parents by school people, and it appears to be illegal both under FERPA, which is federal law, and under Virginia law, Chapter 37, 2.2-3705.7 and 22.1-23.3. None of those things mention anything about records being excluded from the kids. So is it possible to sue them? Because it looks like the VDOE is sitting here and making up its own stuff against not only state law but federal law, and they definitely have never been granted that authority.
Before I pass this down, I'll just say one thing. Obviously, I like to FOIA. I FOIA'd the testing that was done with SEL, how they tried to obtain permission from parents, which was minimal to none. And I will tell you that they twice a year did SEL testing on every single student in the school system. They claim they're anonymous, but at their retreat, they announced that there were 8 schools that they were actually identified, they were student identified. So I FOIA'd, when were the parents notified of the requested permission for the testing? It was like a week ahead of time, so that no parents really even probably authorized this. They just did opt out if you wanted to get out of it. But as far as the answer to when were the parents notified the results of this testing, it was that they have never been notified. And if anyone does want to sue, I do have that paperwork.
Yeah, if your child's a minor, you have a right to their records. I mean, that's pretty much the long and short of it. And as far as what you're talking about with an opt-out, anything that could be, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're supposed to be notified as a parent at least 30 days ahead of time and being given the option to opt out.
Why not opt in?
So.
Laura, did you talk about the Family Foundation court case? The Family Foundation court
Was
case?
there a case with the Family Foundation court case?
For FERPA violations?
No, for the transgender policy.
For transgender policy?
You know
Was
what?
there?
Yes, there was. And so the Family Foundation did bring suit about transgender policies, and they lost, but they lost because, oh shoot.
They said they
It was
didn't have
because of
standing?
standing.
They said, yeah,
They lost because of standing.
yeah, there is no standing.
Yeah, but they said that the guidelines could not be enforced.
That's right. I was sitting here drawing a blank on that. So in law, if there's no penalty, nothing can be enforced. So if you have a law where it states that you shall do X, Y, Z, but you don't state what the penalty is, there's no enforcement mechanism. I mean, it might as well not even be there. So with these model policies, we're told that we're supposed to implement them, but there's no penalty for not doing so, which means it has no teeth in it. So do it or don't do it. There's no penalty for not doing it. And again, I would have to go back to, we already have policies against bullying. I mean, I can disagree with you all day long. I shouldn't be bullying you. So, I mean, that's kind of the end of it for me.
So I just wanted to add something to Paula's Castle. To those organizations are sending questionnaires and surveys to the children, bypassing the teachers. That was confirmed by a middle school teacher when a student asked if said he was confused by the survey he got on his iPad. He wasn't sure if he was gay or transgender, or so they're sending these surveys to the kids directly, and they're supposed to be blind surveys, so you can't actually go back and get that information of what your child submitted, which is horrendous. So that's what the kind of things that Gates and Zuckerberg, the information, the private information of your children that they're collecting. God knows what they're doing with it. So, yes, and I have a question. So I posted a video today, I don't know who saw it, but a little clip of Parrott, Dr. Parrott, On January 26th, she stated that she asked Spence to only nominate principals who are dedicated to equity. And a teacher had commented that there were a whole bunch of new principals from out of town. So that's pretty frightening. And she went on to say that they are adjusting and pivoting to meet their needs. So they're changing that information and adding to it and adding to it to the original equity policy that was signed by the school board that was all about equality, and they just keep changing it. Is there any legal recourse behind that?
Legal extra.
I don't think there's legal recourse to hiring principals that are in line with your school division's values. And really, that's what they're going to say it is. And ultimately, that is what it is. The majority of the school board and central administration, these are their values, and they're hiring people who are in line with their values.
But
That's
that
not...
wasn't my question. My question was that they keep changing the equity policy. Like, you signed an equity policy that was all about equality, and we're all for equality, but they just keep changing it and adding to it and pivoting, is what Dr. Parrott said.
Because when we voted on it, we asked to be able to see something in writing, and there was nothing. So they haven't changed anything from the day we voted on it. They had nothing in writing for us to view. And that was one of the reasons that Vicki and Carolyn and I abstained. We abstained because we weren't given any information. We were not able to see what the curriculum was. We were not able to see what the policy was. They were not able to give us a dollar figure for this. So we abstained because how could you possibly vote on anything you don't have information for? I'm not a fan of you have to vote for it to see what's in it. You know, that's just the way that works. And you know, to these surveys, something else I thought of. So when my younger daughter was in school, they were going over. It was some kind of questionnaire they had. So one of the questions they asked the students was, do you believe in this? And I know everybody in this room will know where this came from, but most of those students unfortunately didn't. And it said, you had to rate it 1 to 5, you know, strongly agree to strongly disagree. And it said, from each by his ability to each for his need. Do you agree with that? So of course a student in the class raised their hand and said, I don't understand what this means. So the teacher said, well, what that means is when people are offering things, you just don't take more than you need. Of course, all the students were like, oh yeah, well, of course I agree with that. I mean, who wouldn't agree with that? And so then they had to input their numbers that showed what their true political values were. So their numbers were based on her explanation, which was a complete and total lie. And, you know, and again, we're back to Karl Marx. We're back to Marxism. This is, you know, the beginning of the Communist Manifesto, but none of these kids knew that. They were told that it just meant you don't take advantage of other people. So that's one of those surveys.
Virginia Beach Department of Education.
And I discussed it with the principal, and he had no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, the equity policy, like Laura said, the three of us abstained because we could not get any answers. We asked, what will the training look like? Well, we don't really know that. I even asked, well, can you give us just like a broad framework of the training? No, we can't do that. We're going to have this audit to come in, and then that will, you know, lead us and drive us. And we kept saying, well, how can we vote on something that there's no information on? It's really, but the policy is written with very vague language, and it's very open-ended, and that's what you're seeing right now.
Teresa, you had a question. You want to come this way? We'll pass the mic down to you. Okay. Pass it down that end.
And I would like to add that, you know, before we were going to vote on that, I reached out to Sharon Felton, you know, my colleague that helped, you know, write this equity policy. I think that was very instrumental, and I shared my concerns, and I said, can you please postpone this because I have too many questions. I am asking you as a 19-year member of this board We don't have to vote on it tomorrow. It's not critical. I had been out of town, and I said, I've just got way too many questions, and we voted on it the next day. So my request was not respected.
Pass it down to Teresa, so it's your question.
Yeah, maybe, I didn't feel very included in that conversation.
When you were talking about bullying, you know, most parents like to know that their children are safe at school when they go. And when I think of oppressor and oppressed, I think good, I think bad. And knowing children, they have this sense of fairness about them or whatever. So when they make these bullying policies, do they include equity with that, or have they done any studies to see if it increases bullying, which I can see that it would, actually.
You said, does it increase, the equity, does it
Right, have you
increase
done
bullying?
any study? With equity would mean you're the oppressor, I'm the oppressed, so if I pick on you, the equity balances out. And I
So
might
you
not
wanna
get
know-
as much trouble.
You want to know if they did any studies that go against their narrative?
Yeah.
No. They're not going to do anything that goes against their narrative because it's against their narrative. It doesn't fit their mold, and so they're not going to do that. As far as I'm aware, I haven't seen any studies. But I would bet that if you labeled kids and said because they're white, they're an oppressor, and because they're black, they're an automatic victim, I'm going to guess that you're going to put some odd stuff in the room. Because there was a book, what was it called? Anti-Racist Baby, right? Well, babies aren't born racist. You teach them to be. And all of these schools are teaching them to be. And that is the biggest problem. And the thing is, it's here, it's in the school system. And there's a lot of parents that think it's not. A lot of parents that think that the school system has their best interest at heart and all that stuff. So everybody in this room needs to talk to 10 parents that don't know about this stuff and tell them, do the research, look it up, highlight it, figure out what's actually in it, and say no. Because at the end of the day, it's parents' rights. It's parents' choice, right? And we have got to start standing up. And we have to start actually doing stuff, telling people. Because there's a lot of parents that probably would stand up against it. But the truth of the matter is they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's happening. They think that the school has their best interest at heart. And they don't realize, they're like, oh, well, it's about equality. Everybody wants equality, right? Yes, everybody wants equality. It's not. It's about equal outcomes. And the problem with equal outcome, which doesn't exist in nature, is that you have to step on somebody else to get somebody else up. That is the problem. You have to pull somebody else down to get everybody at an equal level.
And they're not necessarily going to their classroom and saying, you're an oppressor, you're oppressed, you're an oppressor, you're oppressed. But they're putting out materials that are suggesting that kind of thing. There was something that was just recently put out there. There is a book in the elementary schools that is talking about, it's a nice little story. There's another school board member who was actually praising it a couple months ago and said that this should be in every library. And it's talking about basically that police are bad and that police are gonna kill brown people and not white people, and they're gonna treat you differently. And the whole book is about that. So if you go to the equity pages, they have a list of resources, and there's all kinds of books at all age levels that they are promoting and encouraging students to read that fit that narrative. So it may not be a teacher in there saying, hey, listen, white kid, you're the oppressor. But they are putting out material that's going to give them that same message. Although I will say, I personally, my oldest was in a classroom where a teacher told her students that Republicans were racist during their class. Yes. And I lodged a complaint with the school, and I was told they'd get back to me, and I never heard from them again. And that teacher actually comes and speaks before the school board now. She left last fall because she didn't want to work when we were trying to get kids back in school. But yeah, I figured that was a blessing. But anyway, she's still coming and talking about the need for equity in the classroom, even though she spent most of her class period time campaigning for Bernie Sanders and telling white kids or Republican kids that they were from racist families.
Well, this happens a lot. I mean, with race, with politics, with everything else. My daughter was actually in an 8th grade class where the teacher told her that we get our rights from the Constitution. Not very constitutionally literate. So I explained to her that that's actually not true. You get your rights in natural law. The Constitution is a restraint on the government. And I was really angry. I was driving at the time, so I pulled over on the side of the road and pulled my little pocket Constitution out of my purse, and I handed it to her, and I said, I want you to look at all of these amendments. Every sentence says Congress shall not. There's not a single amendment that says citizen shall not. So she went to school the next day and I guess told her teacher, because when I picked her up after that from school, she said, my teacher said to tell you it's not your job to shape me, and when she was your age, she was guilty of thinking like her parents and I should think for myself. I cannot think. You've completely overstepped your bounds at that point. Do not ever come between a parent and a child. That is just completely unacceptable.
What did you do?
I went and had a talk with the principal. She doesn't work there anymore.
Somebody, I forget who, asked me to ask you, do you know if the teachers union is in favor of CRT, and are they influencing the school board on this?
Here, you want me to get that? I got it. Oh, I can sit too. I got you. You want me?
Beverly Anderson.
Yes.
Definitely yes.
Diana?
Yes, the VBEA has huge influence on the school board. 3 of our members are, school board members are actually lifetime members of the VBEA. We've asked if that's a conflict of interest. Unbelievably, it appears that it's not. Especially when we were talking about collective bargaining, I couldn't quite understand when the VBEA is pushing for collective bargaining, and we've got 3 sitting board members who are on the, who are members of the VBEA. I don't understand why that's not a conflict of interest. So we'll see what that holds, but they have a huge influence, in my opinion, on this board. And Laura's looking for an email about. Do you have it? Okay. With the VBA and CRT. Okay.
Okay, what's the question?
Hi, Paula. I support your recall actions. I know we're having a November 22 election that we don't know what the shape of is going to be. And what I'd like, my question is, how do we get rid of Dr. Spence?
6 votes.
That's one of our goals that I had mentioned, but yeah. And in order to do that, we need a new school board. Except for 3 of them, we like them. But they hire, they choose the superintendent, and and then and I think we're going to spend a lot of time pointing out things we disagree with him in the next few school board meetings too.
I got an idea.
Okay.
You want to get an idea? I got an idea.
It's faster.
It's faster than recall. Okay, so he's a big proponent of white privilege, right? He likes his white privilege. So as a white cisgender male, I suggest that he step down and let a minority person step in his place and the board put him in. Put your money where your mouth is.
Ron, did you have a question?
Yeah, what percentage of the teachers are in the VBEA?
Do you know what percentage?
The 8.5%. There's about 1,200 teachers that are members of the VBA, but I tell you, I have underestimated the VBA in the past at the polls, and you see the school board in the last, few elections, and the VBA with the Democrat Party has stood out there and said, this is who the teachers want. And so most people are like, most moms and dads are like, oh, the teacher, I love teachers, and they want, Beverly Anderson to be reelected, so I'm going to vote for Beverly, or they want Kim Mountain. This is who the teachers want, and it's just amazing how how effective that is at the polls. Because normally when you go to the polls, you do not even pay much attention to city council and school board. You're there to vote for the governor or the president, and then by the time you get handed, this is who the teachers want, vote for this is the teachers, it's very effective, and it has cost us severely. I mean, this board, I've been on there for 19 years, and this board looks nothing like what we had just 6 and 7, 8 years ago. We had a black preacher, a military guy that got his GED. We had an accountant. We had a lawyer. We had a principal. We had Democrats, Republicans, independents. We respected each other. We respected the public when they came to speak to us. We agreed to disagree. We voted and we moved on. Nothing is similar to that. We've got a bunch of mean girls on steroids that are so immature. It is embarrassing. It is painful at times to be on this board, but the three of us, and I know I am there for the kids. I do take this job seriously. Just yesterday I got a call. I worked about 3 hours for this one parent to solve this issue with his pre-K child. That's why I'm on the board, because I got satisfaction that I did something good for this 4-year-old and his mom and dad. But this board is just very dysfunctional, and the only way we're going to fix that is at elections in next year from November, to try to get some more reasonably common sense, freedom-based decision-making people who hold education and kids first.
I can actually not find this email right now, but when I find it, I'll be happy to send it out. But it was somebody who sent something in and said that, and she's kind of a VBEA cheerleader. She said that she couldn't believe that people would talk the way they talked at the school board meeting, you know, kind of just defying all the rules. But she ended her email with, "Thank you for teaching our students," and then in parentheses it said, "not just the white kids." At no time do I recall our schools teaching just the white kids. We teach everybody who's there. I believe the answer to this, honestly, it's elections, period. School choice, school choice, school choice, school choice. You are the parent. Decide where you want your child to go to school. Decide whether or not you want to vaccinate them. Decide whether or not you want them to wear a mask. Decide whether you want religious or secular education. You are the ultimate authority with your child. School choice. That is the only thing that's going to fix this. These elections in November, if we get a majority, we might be able to move that needle there. If not, again, we still need school board elections, because for the children who go to public school, regardless of whether you have choice, we still should make sure that the parents are driving the bus. They're your children. You should be driving the bus. Public school, private school, secular, religious. The parents should be driving the bus. They are your children. Parents are the first educators of their children, and they're the ultimate authorities on their own children.
Okay, last question. Cultural competency. The General Assembly in Bill SB 1196 and HB 1904 said starting July 1, 2021, teachers would have to be licensed in cultural competency, and that school boards have to give them training on this, right? But to my understanding, I've not seen any guidelines from the Department of Education on it. Have you all gotten that yet? Is there any?
Yeah, I haven't seen any specifics, but.
Carolyn, it's coming out, it's supposed to be to us at the end of December.
Okay, it's supposed to be to us at the end of December. Yeah, I haven't, that's right, yeah.
Okay, so then I want you all to follow up and what everybody can do and where they can reach your organizations, and what would you like them to do?
Well, from our standpoint, we'd like you to go to Students First VA And actually, to follow up on something that Becky said, she has resources there that she's director of the Virginia Department of Education, because that's a great resource. We have many resources in addition to what she has that can go along with it and complement it. And we'd love everyone to be as active as possible. A couple of things I will say too is with No Left Turn in Education, Students First VA is going to, on the 17th of this month at the Cavalier Golf and Yacht Club, host a film on Clarence Thomas, and he's an excellent example of where our country really is as far as the races. The other thing that from our standpoint we would love is to have more people show up at our rallies at the school board. They're always 5 o'clock before the school board meeting, and then join us. You can contact me through Students First VA, we have lots of cards, to see how we're going to go about the speaking that night and what points we're going to try to make to try to get through to get the people to understand. Because a lot of times when we speak and we go there and we do the things that we do, if you've watched any of what's gone on the news with us, and we're starting to hit like the national news and things like that now, actually a lot thanks to Annie. But we're not really there to try to change the minds of Carolyn Rye and Kim Melnick or anybody like that. We're actually really trying to reach out to the parents, to the people that might be listening in, to educate them about what actually is going on. So the more people we have there in numbers, the more people who might get up just for a minute to speak in front of the school board, or if you need any direction or assistance, contact me through Paula Chang through Students First. You just email Students First VA, I'll get back to you how we're going about it and what we're trying to do.
Okay, again, Carolyn Weems, our email is on the, what is our email?
It's your first name dot last name.
Okay, first name Carolyn dot last name Weems at vbcpsboard.com. Just, yeah, or just go to the website, click on my picture, or Carolyn Weems at cox.net. Also, my phone number is on the website. Call me, and I will answer, and I will try to email you back, and we can discuss and agree to disagree, or agree how you can help us move forward. Thank you.
I have 6 resources for you very quickly. The first is Students First VA, which she's already discussed. The second is No Left Turn, which they will be discussing. The third is, please reach out to me, Vicki or Carolyn. You can just click on our names. If you would like to get a hold of us, a lot easier than it sounds. But I have 3 more resources. Bill Curtis, chair of the Republican Party, is here. Elections Matter. Ask him how you can help. Robert Dean, chair of the Libertarian Party, is here. Elections Matter. Ask him how you can help. Dee Howard, chair of the Tea Party. Elections Matter. Ask her how you can help. Ultimately, we can sit here and talk all we want, and we can make posts, but you need to be at the polls. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Work a poll, knock a door, make a phone call, write a check, run for office. Everybody can do something. So ask these leaders of organizations and ask elected officials that are like-minded with you and organizations that are like-minded with you, how can I help you?
Talking about elections, I'll just say, we were saying that they're going to have these culturally proficient things coming down in December. If we vote in the right governor in November, then a lot of changes are going to be made at the VDOE, and then it's not going to matter, right? So when we change those people in office, that's going to make a difference. So, and that's where it's got to start. So just like Laura said. So I'll just mention a few resources as well. NoLeftTurn.us, we have a new website, and you can actually pull up by state what's going on. You can upload or comment on what you've actually experienced, what you've seen. You can see what other people have put. We uploaded video from the rally last week, actually. There's all kinds of information. There's resources on that page as well that you can dive into further. James Lindsay's New Discourses talks extensively about critical race theory. If you have someone who doesn't identify as being religious or a Christian and they just want kind of an agnostic's view of that, that's a great resource, a great page. I always talk about this book. This is like the best book ever. Fault Lines, Vadi Bakum. excellent, excellent resource regarding critical race theory from a biblical perspective. The VDOE has, if you want to see what's out there, just go to the VDOE. Just go to the equity page on the Virginia Beach City Public Schools. They're really not hiding it. It's out there. So the best thing is we can all be conversant about this and know what we're talking about, know what's out there, so that we can tell, as JoJo I think said, tell at least 10 people you know, and get involved. Show up to those rallies. We can absorb, we can be sponges, but at some point we have to wring it out. And that's going to be the key, is whether or not we're wringing it out by talking to people, getting involved, volunteering, donating, that kind of thing. So that's really the best thing that we can all do that.
I love going last because there's nothing else to say. Okay, so No Left Turn in Education, noleftturn.us is the website. No Left Turn, the Eastern chapter, we've got a Facebook. And then you've got the national chapter also has a Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on every, I'm sure, Snapchat and all that and whatever. We're on everything. So look us up. No Left Turn in Education. Don't just type in No Left Turn. It'll take you somewhere else. And it'll take you left. But the main thing is show up. 10 people, 20 people. Let everybody know. The only way to fight this is fight with numbers, right? And we're losing when it comes to numbers, let's be honest, right? Because they show up in droves. So let's show up. Show up to the polls, show up to the rallies, just show up. If you show up on Facebook, I've seen everybody on Facebook. Everybody talks a lot on Facebook. But then when it turns up to actually show up at the school board meeting or show up at the rallies, we're a little bit sparse. So, just show up. Help us out.
All right, can I have a round of applause?
Okay, so now we'll go to the business meeting, so thank you all. You can go out that way.
They don't have to leave. Hey, Diana.
Yes, you can. No, you can just